everything's all good here. But the Final Four is this weekend, and first things first, let's talk about the first matchup: the FAU Owls versus the San Diego State Aztecs. And the first question I have to ask with this matchup, guys, before we break it down itself, does San Diego State deserve to be here? And why do I ask that? During their Elite Eight matchup in their regional final against Kansas State, and the very last second, it was a tied game. And with 1.2 seconds, FAU player takes a shot, and he's fouled. Now, you do see some contact. This literally is the Super Bowl's final. This is literally the Super Bowl play with James Bradbury and Juju Smith, but this time it's college basketball in the Elite Eight. So we do see contact there, and unfortunately, they got two shots. They made the two shots, and that's all it took. And San Diego State is going to be playing in Houston this weekend. So with that controversial call, I will ask again, does San Diego State even deserve to be here amongst that egregious call?
Yes and no. I want Kansas State to win, but I think they do. It was a last second call, but I think after watching in your review, he did get technically, you could say it was like one of those calls that didn't need to be called, but in that situation, how tight the game is, he did foul him. So I see both sides of it. So in that either call the refs would, or situations that the refs would have done in that situation, you're gonna get flack for either one. Either not getting, calling it or calling it. I think that I don't think there's no better outcome from either side of that call. I think that the refs had the right. It was not like it was a blatant foul or like it blatantly was not a foul, and it was a bad call. There was contact, so the call is backed up by proof, so you can't really argue with that.
I think it's just the inconsistency with the calls. It's very much the same as the Super Bowl call, where there's always going to be that kind of tugging right around the midsection. It's a matter of whether it change receiver's position. Same thing with the shooter. I thought that they could have called it. They didn't have to call it, but it definitely would have played into the benefit of the referee's hands if they had overtime, especially if he didn't make it, because it looked like the shot was clearly going to be short. I don't like the call, but I understand the call by the letter of the law. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? Creighton had a great run, and you just got to be a little. You just got to be a little smarter. That's all.
Yeah, I think in that situation he didn't necessarily like. If you think about it, he didn't play smart right there. There was no reason to blatantly foul, and I think at last second he thought he was doing the right thing, ended up hurting them in the long run.
Yep.
Yeah, clearly plays like these put refs in a bad position because they do have to do their job. And when you have that literal 2 seconds to decide while you're nervous, while officials across all sports have a huge microscope under them, it's hard to really fault at this ref. I'm not going to say that, but I probably, if I was a Creighton fan, I would probably think the opposite, just knowing me. But it is an unfair double-edged sword. But if you want to be that person to say, oh, why are you tied in this game? Why aren't you blowing him out at this point? It's a long, winding conversation that will...
Exactly. It's like a double-edged sword. No matter the situation the ref would have called, he would have gotten flack from either one. Either, oh, you didn't call that when that was a foul, you're holding back. Or if he called it, oh, you didn't need to call. It's a double-edged sword for refs. I think, like, no matter, like you said, they're under a microscope, so like any call they do is going to get flagged because just hardcore fans they want to be biased towards their team and they want the call that favors them.
Sure.
So mad world out there, but in the end, San Diego State pulled it off. Hayden's unavailable tonight, but we can't celebrate because he did actually call this team. I saw a lot of people literally laugh at that, but San Diego State is there. The FAU Owls are a Cinderella story that no one's talking about. They are a team in the final for the first time ever, going this deep for the first time ever. And look at them now. So the first matchup we could discuss here is
Yep.
FAU, Florida Atlantic University versus San Diego State University. This matchup, guys, what really interests you about these two schools going at it?
I just can't get a read off of FAU. Every time I think they're gonna, they're gonna bow out, they just continue to clutch and
Right.
outshine anything I say. I think they just have some really great guards, and I think they're another team like UConn, which has somewhat of a pretty pretty good bench, where their consistency on defense continues even when their starters are not in. Um, I think right now, I think they're what's helping them is that they have range when it comes to offensive scoring. They're able to score in the paint. They do have the 3-point shot as well. So I think their offensive flow is working right now, even though in the regular season they were one of the worst offensive teams in the country. But I can't. I don't know what to say. San Diego State, on the other hand, has been playing outstanding as well. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to come down to, I think, like one or two possessions. And I honestly don't know who. I keep wanting to say, FAU is going to bow out and San Diego State is going to win it, but I think I'm going to go FAU on that point.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and I forgot to mention San Diego State at the moment are 2-point favorites.
Yeah, I think over under I think it's 132 right now. No, I'm gonna go opposite on Brandon here. I think San Diego State is the more complete team. I think they're hot at the right time. I think their lockdown defense all throughout the tourney and through the regular season has really put them a step above the rest of the competition, and I think that's going to show out here. I think the one thing with Florida Atlantic, the reason that they put everybody on their heels is because, like Brandon said at the outset, like they have 6 players with 1 assist or more versus K State. Like anybody can get a bucket, but also everybody can move without the ball and score, and they can make the play at the right time. So if you're FAU, you got to spread the ball around, play inside out with Golden, make him be the focal point, almost like a Dwight Howard Orlando Magic situation where you have shooters all over the place and you just play outside in basketball, and make San Diego State defend the perimeter. They only go 8 deep on their roster. Wear them out, use the whole shot clock. Their defense is their primary resource, so make sure to max them out on that. And for San Diego State, the way that they can, win this game is they've got 5 guys over 6'7". Like they clearly have the wingspan. They can lock down this team if they choose to. It's just a matter of endurance and pace and how they want to play on offense. Because at the end of the day, you have to preserve yourself if you're a defender. It's going to wear you down as the game progresses. I think that you have to move the ball inside out with the bigs and shift FAU's guards off their defense. Make them collapse in the paint and get guys in foul trouble early, particularly Golden. If you hyper focus on him, the whole team goes small ball, and you have the advantage for the rest of the game. I think that between Butler and Trammell, they have to combine for 35 in this game, whether it's 20 and 15 or some combination of the two. I think that those 2 guys are the most important keys to this game for them to seal it. But at the end of the day, I got it 65-61 San Diego State.
Yeah, I think San Diego this is their game to win because of that stellar defense, as mentioned. You guys made incredible points from the start, but I just think and the only thing I have to add to that is defense wins championships. Even though FAU is a classic, old school, fundamentally sound basketball team who checks marks everything from great passing game to scores, and also a veteran team that has played with each other for a long time. But San Diego's been a stellar story, and I think they're going to prove that they're going to be deserving of this. So.
And an important keynote to remember too is that FAU San Diego State, first of all, if Florida Atlantic is gonna create the upset, you got to have at least 2 guys for San Diego State get off and get in double digits. Only 2 guys in the Creighton game got more than double-digit points, which was, I believe, Trammell and Butler. So it's like force them to make their shots, and you'll be okay. But in order to do that, you really have to wear them down on the shot clock and execute your offense, even if there's no returns early on in the game.
Right. Absolutely great points. So ultimately, our final picks here, I have San Diego State. Brandon, you have one more time?
FAU.
FAU, and Alex,
Woo!
you have
San Diego State 65-61.
All right. And I'll throw the score of 77-61. This could be a beatdown. It's going to be a 50 beatdown.
Like
I'm
a
going
UConn.
to yeah, right. I'm throwing an absolute random prediction on that one, but let's go Aztecs. But
Just a tad bit. The FAU's leaving their conference next year. They're going to the ACC or AAC.
Probably
Yeah,
I can
they're
confirm that
leaving.
really quick.
that'll be Houston.
Yes, they're leaving. So the conversation is any money they win from the tournament is actually going to stay in conference. So they're not even going to see that money.
Yes, and to confirm, they are going. Yes, the AAC, according to this, to become full-time member.
Yeah.
So how
So
about
any
that?
money and all that, they're all is going to be left in. I don't know what conference they're in now. The USA.
Conference USA.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a great story from the Owls. It's just too bad schools like Princeton and FDU became the quote-unquote darlings, but I think the end of the road comes for them on this Final Four weekend. But props to them. But ultimately, I wouldn't be too sad if they pulled it off either. But it'll be a very interesting game. And then at around 8:50, a real battle of two classic teams, two classic college not franchises, college schools. But this is a lot of fun. The University of Connecticut versus the University of Miami. UConn Huskies versus the Miami Hurricanes. A Final Four matchup that has so much written on it. You have one UConn team who has been up and down, but as soon as they got in the tournament, they've been doing nothing but kicking ass. I think the lowest margin they've won in this tournament is 15 points, one of the most dominant stretches in the history of this tournament. And the Miami Hurricanes, with a greatly coached team who has a bunch of young up-and-coming stars themselves that play hardcore basketball. It's a really great story for both schools to go at it, and how can you not be excited? But I have two of the biggest UConn fans in front of me, I think it's fair to say, and we're all Connecticut natives where we are going with this. So first, before we talk about the matchup itself, just tell me about UConn's story, guys. Alex and Brandon, you have followed this team since tip-off, and now they're here in the Final Four. Tell me about your thoughts of their journey up until this point.
I think they proved everyone wrong. Everyone had them bowing out after like the second round. I think people forget and take for granted because it was non-conference games in the beginning of the season, but they were the second best team in the country, arguably, number one at the time. I think people also understate how strong the Big East Conference is and how hard it is to play in that conference, going up against some of the best teams in the country like Creighton, Providence, or even Xavier on a regular basis. And then on top of it, we played all three, I think all three or four of those teams back to back without a break. That's when we went on our losing streak. And as we saw after we got out of that, they came back strong, and they're starting to look exactly like they were at the beginning of the season, playing non-conference teams and winning.
Yep. Yeah, and the one thing that's always been a high mark for for UConn basketball and winning championships has been senior guard play, leadership in the backcourt positions, guys that can be an extension of the coach on the floor. And I think for Dan Hurley, having guys like Newton and Aline who are hungry players that are vets that came into this with a lot on the line. And then obviously Andre Jackson in his third year, taking the reins as kind of like the unspoken leader. Those are the guys that really control, the pace of this tournament for this team. And they've been able to kind of, control, from a defensive standpoint, everything that goes on, despite having such huge, huge offensive outputs too. So it's not really about the scoring of the team. I think that their hallmark all season long has been defense, their tenacity, 50-50 balls, situational offense, out of bounds plays. That's really where they shine, and it's going to be a great game. Well, let's get into it.
Absolutely. Let's get into it, guys. The Miami Hurricanes versus the UConn Huskies. It'll tip off at around 8:50 on Saturday night. UConn is a 5.5-point favorite. And tell me, guys, we know where you are going with this, and I will join that too. We want UConn to obviously beat Miami, but how are they going to do it?
I think, like Alex said, it's defense. I think that's our strongest suit, being able to shut them down on the defense. And I think our offense is something different for a lot of teams because we don't play off the screen as most teams in college do. We play more of a motion offense where we constantly are running around, passing the ball, and looking for errors to either get it in the paint or get Jordan Hawkins open on the perimeter to make a three. And another key thing is, I know I always say this, is it's our bench. We have so much on our bench that our starters are never tired. So playing two halves is like nothing to them, because you can play Sonogo in the first half and then take him out, and we can still have elite play in the paint with Clean being 7'2" and being able to dominate. And he's shown that all tournament long, that when he's in there, he takes advantage of his minutes and does what he needs to do on both sides of the court. And then on top of it, we have so many elite guards or senior guards, like Alex said, with Newton, coming on, Andre Jackson, kind of taking the role of being a facilitator and really focusing on not scoring but doing the intangibles with assist and rebounding and doing everything on the floor, like the dirty work. And then we have one of the best shooting guards, you could say, in the country with Jordan Hawkins. So I just think we're just going to overwhelm Miami. I think it might be close in the first half, like all tournament has, but once UConn finds out how that team works, they're gonna beat them down, I think, and really open up the gap in the second half.
Brandon, you hit on some really important points about the formula for how UConn's going to win this game. I think setting the tempo and tone early, pounding inside with Sonogo, creating a dominant force. We know that Miami is a small team, so imposing their will early on, and putting the onus on the refs to call plays, call the fouls that are there on Sonogo and the bigs down low is going to be critical. I think that when you look at the Gonzaga game, UConn had 21 assists on 30 made field goals. That means evenly distributing the ball around, using the maximum amount of shot clock, wearing these guys out on the perimeter. All these tremendous guards they have make them just exhaust themselves entirely through this game. I think that's the formula to win, particularly if you're talking about perimeter action and maximizing your offensive possessions. The other thing too is, don't get complacent. Don't rely on the three. If Hawkins gets early, don't rely on all these outside shots. They're always going to be there throughout the game. You really need to pound it inside and resort to what has been working all tournament long. And I think when you're talking about quality minutes from our bench, I think whatever combination of the following guys I'm about to mention, it's got to be three guys that at least give you solid 8 minutes, 10 minutes in this game. It's got to be a combination of Aline, Caravan, Calcaterra, and Klingon. If you can get three of those four guys, any combination, a solid 10 minutes of production on any of those fronts, I think that they're gonna clinch this game early.
Yeah, so you guys definitely agree this will be like all their tournament games. It'll be an offensive powerhouse, a defensive win, and them shutting them down, and they'll just show their dominance like they have been.
I think the critical tipping point, I think, is going to be seeing what Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller do, because they're going to cause a little bit of problems for UConn's backcourt. I think that starting Jackson and Newton collectively, maybe going one-on-one on each, both defensively, I think is probably a smart strategy for Hurley in this game, and just see how it works for a 4 or 5 minute stretch. If they start breaking the man-on-man coverage, I would probably resort to a zone, but I would try that out, test it early.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. I think that. Well, I think our strongest suit is playing man to man. But yeah, I would definitely. Uh, my biggest concern defensively right now would be Carabin. Uh, he is one of the weaker players defensively. Being only a freshman and having to, guard senior players, it is hard. When you first come in, you're playing against elite players that have been playing at the college level for some time and really
Yeah.
know what to do. So I think Harabin needs to really be careful. I think he needs to play tight defense and not get beat. I also look at Jordan Hawkins. I think one of the things that he's struggled a little bit with throughout the tournament is letting these fast, smaller guards get past him, which can really hurt us because I think Sonogo's weakness on defense is the over hedging on the screens and
Yeah.
trying to help Hawkins or whoever needs the help, and then they end up Sonogo over hedges and they get points in the paint. So really, that's going to be our issue is really sticking to man and not letting people into the paint, and also foul trouble. I think one thing we could say for sure is that we're a really aggressive team when it comes to shot blocking. So we just need to be careful when Wong and them try to drive in, that we don't foul and play clean defense.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking particularly to that second or third TV timeout when Hurley kind of galvanizes the guys, whether they're ahead with a short lead or down in a small deficit. I would say to their guys, keep things under control. With fouls, if guys beat you and get their shot, they're going to get their shot. But the reality is that when you look back at the Texas game, they were 28 of 32 from the free throw line. You can't let them live at the free throw line. If they get in the bonus early, first or second half, you're going to have a long game trying to put these guys away. So you can't let them continue to feed off of you at the free throw line. And I think some of that starts with, just being conservative. Let the outside guys beat you with poor quality shots. If they're going to shoot threes, don't let the bigs be pulled out from the paint. That's exactly what they want. They want penetration. So whether you're Klingon or Sonogo, the message from Hurley has to be: don't be fooled by fool's gold coming out of the paint and doubling down shooters. Let them get their shots. They're not high quality shots, and if they are, then you make adjustments.
And just to highlight on the Hurricane side, Jim Larrañaga, he has broken hearts of UConn fans before. He was the coach of George Mason when they knocked him down. And do you think Jim Larrañaga, with this particular team he has, can he somehow outcoach Dan Hurley?
I think he looks. For the longest time, I thought he was Jim Boeheim. So if he pretends to be Boeheim, he can do
it. I think I don't know if out coach Hurley, but I definitely I was talking with one of my cousin about this. I think UConn. We were talking about UConn has probably one of the strongest coaching staffs in the country. So I think where Dan Hurley falls short coaching wise, I think that's where Amani Young and I always forget his name.
For who?
The assistant coach for UConn.
Oh, Bill Murray's son?
Bill Murray's son. I didn't want to say it, but I don't want to call him that. It's kind of but yeah, Bill Murray's son, I think that's where those two coaches will come into play, or assistants will come into play, and yeah, will come in and help Hurley on that standpoint.
Well, I got to imagine that Larrañaga's his message to the guys is, win, dominate on situational plays. Whether it's commanding the free throw line, loose ball situations, deflections. I mean, these guys had 9 steals versus Texas in the Elite Eight. I can imagine that they're going to be highly disruptive on the perimeter. So if his message to his guys is make this game a fist fight and scrappy, my thing is with the outcome of this game, the first team to 80 points wins. I think it's going to be a shootout regardless. But if you got to make the game ugly, I think that plays an advantage of Miami.
Yeah. Well, we all know from previous tournaments that the thing that wins, games in the tournament is elite guard play, and I think that's one of the strengths of Miami, with Wong And I think that if they do it right, like Alex touched on before, you got to be careful because they're gonna look for the foul and try to get us in foul trouble early, so they can command the tempo and really control us on the free throw line.
Yeah.
And also just to confirm, his name's Luke Murray.
Luke Murray, that's what it is. I was trying to think of what it was.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, guys. And now focusing on Monday's championship.
Oh, can we make our picks?
For the UConn?
Final four for UConn?
Yeah. Let's make it official. Who do you guys think will win UConn versus Miami?
UConn.
I got UConn comfortably 79-68.
Awesome. And as I said, I feel the
like
same
that.
way. I think it's going to be a little closer I think it'll be a classic game. Let's go with 82-80.
That's
UConn.
high.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it will be that
They
high.
can do it. They're both offensive, they're both offensive, good offensive teams. So it could be a high scoring game. But I think that it's definitely a potential to do that.
And for selfish reasons, UConn wins, I win my pool mathematically. So I want to complete this
yeah, because you had them
team.
going all the way to the championship.
Yeah, I picked them to lose the championship, but if in this bracket, if I pick them, but if they win, I win by mathematically in the pool I'm in. So
Yeah,
Well,
let us make this official.
See, when he didn't lose faith in UConn, I did.
Oh man, good thing I lost faith in UCLA.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Stupid me had Texas Marquette, so whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I think now for the rest of the time we do shows, you know what? Go with your bias heart if you really feel it, because we know what happens when you go with your head too. But
Man,
it's a great
it's
content.
been a crazy tournament. It's I'm surprised Houston got out. But more surprised at Alabama. I'm not gonna lie. More surprised about Alabama, just how offensively good they are. Especially with having a high paced offense.
What a correspondence, or what I should say, what a coincidence. Brandon Miller has a bad game and there you get out. And now he has a big case still above his head. But he'll probably still get drafted and we'll all forget about it because that's how we are as humans. Now, regarding the championship itself, I think it's fair to say we'd like to see UConn take it. And we both had one side pick San Diego, one side pick FAU, or I should say two. But ultimately, if it's a UConn San Diego State championship or a UConn Florida Atlantic championship, wouldn't that be funny? Who would have thought there? But say that happens though, do you think that would be an easier matchup or a more difficult depending on the two schools?
FAU, I think, will be easier matchup because of our height dominance. I think we would pretty much it would be easy for us to take over in the paint. But to know throw a tad in there, Jalen Gaffney is actually on FAU, and if anyone knows, he was one of the backup point guards for UConn or guards for UConn.
Now that's a Disney movie.
So if that happens, that would be crazy. Because if we win, then he's gonna be like, man, I should have never left. I would have won a national champion.
Yeah, maybe. For real. He would have been a bench warmer too.
Yeah, he would have done in no time. Not with the guards we have now.
Yeah, I totally agree with Brandon. I think if they play for Atlantic, they should win pretty soundly. I think far bigger margin. But if they play San Diego, it'll be tight, but they'll still prevail. In short order. I think that San Diego State just has too many it causes too many problems on the perimeter for UConn because they got, like I said earlier, they got 5 guys over 6.5 foot wingspan. So it's going to be a lot of disruption. It's going to be a lot of chaos on the offensive end. But eventually they'll get their shit together and they'll win.
Yeah, I think like the one strength of San Diego is they have that 3-point with that team. So which is a big thing against us. I think if any team with a good 3-point game will keep it close with us.
Yep.
Ultimately, guys, you think by the time we record next week that UConn will win its 5th national championship. What is that national like? For most all time. While I look that up, do you ultimately think through all thick and thin, through following them for such a long time, do you think this is it? That this UConn team is the one?
I do. If they keep playing at the level they've been playing at throughout this whole tournament, I think they can take it. Yes.
Yeah, I do too. I think just don't go too astray from your formula. Like, do what works in the first half, make adjustments in the second half based on what the team gives you, and they'll be fine. I think that what happens like with preparation at the highest level, like whether it's Super Bowl or it's championship series, I think there's too much overthinking going on. I think simplification of your offense, doing what works, and just playing off of what the opponent is giving you is really just the formula, and it's just a matter of situational plays that are going to change that game, whether it's going to be 10-point win or a 1-point squeak out margin of victory or a loss. I think it's just going to come down to those 50-50 plays.
Look at
I
that.
agree with Alex on that.
And historically, they would. Oh, sorry, you're saying?
No. I just said I would agree with on that. I think that's the one reason why we kind of started to lose ourselves mid season was that we started to rely too much on the 3-point and stop working the inside with Sonogo, and it really caught up to us, and that's when we started to lose games.
You just have to win 2 more games. That's it. 2 games in 3 days. And if UConn wins it, that will tie them for 5th all time.
Woo!
So look at that, guys. And I mean, if UConn wins this national championship, what are you guys gonna do all next week besides the 1 hour to record the reaction? You got to be celebrating and partying hard, I would think.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna remember next week.
Go out to celebrate at Hartford and go Town Square. Stores isn't too far, and well, I guess we're kind of too old for that, but at least for the the fanfare, the parade, you got to be there.
Oh, 100%.
We're gonna hightail it up to Stores and party with the tenderloins.
Oh my goodness. But that should do it, guys. Final 4, 2023, UConn, Miami, FAU, San Diego State University. Man, what a journey, guys. And I can't wait to reflect on it next week. And let's have a lot of fun with it. I hope we can celebrate our state next week.
Yep.
Love it, man. Hope for the best.
We
All
do.
right, it's going to be a good time. We'll see you next week to react to the Final 4 and react to the championship, guys. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.